Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show. Hi, my name is Jarvis, and I think the Falcons are going to trade down.
And you never want your star to be out of what some would say, I would say, is the biggest game of the season. But if a star is going to be down, that just means other stars are born.
And that is all coming up next, right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast, and wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review, and we appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. But T, when you think about, a friend of the show, got a little news here. Elijah Wilkinson was signed by the Arizona Cardinals team. And you know what? That kind of leaves a big hole at that left guard spot. And that's one of the spots that we've talked about how the Falcons need to focus in on getting locked up, because we know this regime, that spot has been a question mark coming into every season. And it looks like right as of now, it's going to be Jalen Mayfield, Matt Hennessy, Justin Schaefer. None of those names excite me whatsoever. But I think, T, as we lead up to the draft, do you think this is a possibility that the Falcons are going to solidify that spot by drafting somebody who can jump in that spot? You can just pencil them in right then and there, and that's your starter, and the Falcons have a formidable offensive line up front to start the season.
Okay, and let me be up front. I know we're not talking about the 8th spot, are we? Are we?
No, but I got a scenario that might.
Oh, I'm not scaring you enough. I said, are we talking about the 8th spot or not?
As of right now, no. My scenario does not involve the Falcons taking a guard at the number 8 overall spot. No, not. The answer to your question is no.
Return to my face. Because what we're not going to do is draft an O-lineman at 8. What we're not going to do is draft on offense. What we're not going to do is not draft on defense at 8. That's where I stand. Now, what I will say, Jarvis, is this. I am perfectly okay if, now notice I'm putting a caveat on it.
Okay, of course. Yes.
The Falcons get some things to fall in their favor such that they can maybe draft back, get some capital, and then I might halfway be okay with an O-lineman in the first round, especially because, like you said, this was already a questionable spot, even with Elijah Wilkinson, because he was solid. He
played 9 games. He was solid, but he only 9 games.
He only played half the season.
Exactly.
So you have to take that into consideration. That's part one. Now, part two is I'm also okay if the Falcons happen to stay at the 8th spot or even move back slightly, like say a 10 or 11 spot, if you will, and keep that defense, but maybe take that number 44 pick and move that back into the first round to get that O-lineman. I'm perfectly okay with that, because we do understand that if we want Desmond Ridder to be successful, and if we want the running game to maybe not even just stay at 3rd in the league across the entire NFL, but maybe even be
number 1.
Better. Yeah. Exactly. If you want that, then you have to continue to invest in the trenches. That's why I wanted to say, as I get about, not going defense with that number 8 pick, there are some scenarios and some caveats where that could happen, and I'd be okay with it.
I love the fact that you're sticking to that Tenitra mantra. I love it. I love it. Absolutely. But here's a scenario, T. Let me give you a scenario as to why I feel like the Falcons they may be preparing to move back. One of the top 30 visits with Anthony Richardson, right? And I think that as of right now, the way people been loving on him, he's going top 10. Like, it's just a matter of where. And I think that if there's a scenario where he falls to that 8th spot and somebody that's clamoring for a quarterback, need a quarterback, and they're going to see a scenario. I see a scenario where that team trades up. And also, there are a couple of guys that the Falcons could draft that will be available if they were to move back to that 14 or even 15 slot. And That's two names that one of the guys I've already been mentioning on this show that I really like, and I think he's going to be a really good NFL football player, and that is Keion White. I think if you move back, you pick up some extra picks, and you move back, and you can maybe pick up a guard that you like in that second round. There are some guys out there, I promise you, that can play football. Guys like Cody Mock out of North Dakota State. Some of those guys that can really, really play some football. And the guy that I really liked when I was down at the Senior Bowl, a guy by the name of Osiris Torrance, excuse me. He is a guard out of Florida. The guy about 6'4", 6'5", 330 pounds. He's a mauler. The Falcons have already met with him. And when you think about, being able to solidify that offensive line, because like you said, everybody gets tired of talking about, what Matt Hennessy going to do? Can Jalen Mayfield, get it figured out? Or is Justin Schaefer a guy who they drafted in the sixth round? No, I'm tired of that. I want to put a name in there and be like, okay, this is the starter, and here's what we're talking about. Now we're talking about development. We're talking about cohesiveness with that guys that we know are going to be up front, and we're not having a round table of guards being cycled in when guys can't stay healthy or they're just not performing to where they need to be. And if this scenario plays out like this, I'm starting to feel like this is where the Falcons are at least preparing for, because when you're talking about potentially 4 quarterbacks going in the top 10, that's going to push people down. And it's going to push a certain group of players down to the Falcons where they might not have to trade down, because it might be an edge rusher that you never thought that might be there, or a Jalen Carter might be sitting right there at that 8 spot for your taking. Or somebody, if you don't want Jalen Carter and somebody covers Jalen Carter, because we know the Chicago Bears, they're salivating at that number 9 spot. Like, please, we were considering drafting him number 1 overall. Let him come to Chicago in the Windy City. So I think that there are a lot of scenarios right now that I feel like they're going to work out in the Falcons' favor, given where they are. And I think that if you get a guy like a Keion White or Osiris Torrance, I think you're going to be cooking with grease. And I think this draft is going to go really well for Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith.
And that's why you play chess and not checkers. That's why
Absolutely.
You go to Anthony Richardson's pro day, because
Yes.
you're getting people to think, now, wait a minute, are they going to go Torrance because they met with him? Are they going to go Richardson because they met with him? And you keep all of those cards played close to the vest, because on draft night, that's where you get to say, well, we are considering, because we visited him on his pro day or we met with him. To me, I always said that when we got confirmation that the Falcons were at Anthony Richardson's pro day, that never to me signaled that they were going to draft him. But that did signal to me that they're playing chess, not checkers, because they're not going to tell you that they're not going to draft. They're not going to tell the other 31 teams that. They were sitting there just like the other 31 teams, evaluating him for his potential. But it may not be his potential to play with the Falcons. It may be his potential to be a chip that the Falcons can utilize for who they really need.
Absolutely. And another team in the city, yesterday was 4-4 day. We celebrated by awarding the Braves. Yeah, I got to represent today with the 4-4 Representer Award from ATL Day Ones. They represented by getting that dub. Had Dylan Dodd on the mound, absolutely doing his thing, T. And when you think about the depth on this roster and, how Alex Anthopoulos has built this team, you got to just give him kudos for being able to have the confidence in the rookie to get the call up, put him out there on the mound, and then he goes out there and performs and absolutely puts out work, T. Like, I don't even know where to start, because it was just so many things that I saw last night. This team just got me so excited. It's at least 100 games this year, like at least. And I think this team is going to run away with the NL at least this year. That's where I am right now, T. That's how I'm feeling.
Okay, I'm hoping you go on and be that cheerleader. That is a wonderful way. The wonderful thing to be. Dylan Dodd did not disappoint in his major league debut. And you talk about Brian Snitker having confidence in Dodd, but it was great to see Dodd have confidence in himself.
Yes.
Because he gets on the mound. And how is your first strikeout in the majors against a future Hall of Famer in Paul Goldschmidt? I mean, just to be able to stand and get that.
MVP Paul Goldschmidt.
Like he posterized him like a posterizing version
Yes, he
of
did.
what you would do in the majors of what we see in the NBA. But yeah, what a great one earned run, and after that, no more. And it was wonderful also to see him get 3 strikeouts and to see him go as long as he did,
Yep.
because when you are able to pitch 5 innings in the majors, I mean, in this day and age, that's like pitching a complete game. So yeah, definitely
Pretty much.
excited to see that, because when you think about it, juxtaposed to, hey, they gave him pretty much the call up before game 1, like, hey, you're on. And we now know Max Fried has been placed on a 15-day IL. So to have him in that space was just really, really exciting. And then to see the bullpen come through, AJ Minter, of course, with the scoreless ninth, but to see the rest of that bullpen come through and just take it scoreless the rest of the way. I mean, that's pretty darn impressive for the St. Louis Cardinals, because they have some big bats too. For the
Oh,
St.
yeah.
Louis Cardinals,
Brother
not to
Arenado is one of them.
yeah,
He's
able
a
to get a
deal.
run for 8 innings. That
Yeah.
is pretty darn impressive, not just by Dylan Dow, but that entire pitching staff.
Yeah, the bullpen was amazing. Jesse Chavez coming in and just absolutely dealing. I think there are some the true pros, T, with his rule change are going to really benefit from this pitch clock, because those guys were up there working. I'm talking about like, give me the ball back. Ooh, I'm ready. Let's go. And I think that is it's amazing to see how the game has sped up, but I think it's also good to see for me, because I love when professionals get challenged, and like, from rule changes or what have you, and having to adjust their games to kind of make sure that they aren't violators of those rules. Mm-hmm. And just to see how the bullpen was able to work, I think it's going to be amazing to watch going forward with them.
And
Now,
the other thing is, we talk about just a complete game. We talk about a complete game, and to see the 2 defensive stops by Ronald Acuna Jr. that saved a couple of runs. And then, as we talked about, Austin Riley, and how we were having our conversation about the potential for 4 players to hit 40 home runs. When you're out there hitting home runs in the first inning, 2 games in a row, I kind of like the Braves' chances.
absolutely. Yeah, we love the Braves' chances. How about this? We like the Hawks' chances for getting the 8th seed. What? Who said that? We'll talk about that next. But first, we got to talk about FanDuel.com/LockedOn. People, it is the #1 sports book in America. If you have not tried it yet, where have you been? You guys have been listening to the #1 podcast in America. So go ahead and mess with the #1 sports book in America. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Now, if you are a new customer, they have the no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the app. Y'all, it's safe, secure, and super easy to use. And you can bet on everything from the money line, points scored, or even threes drained. They got everything right there. Over unders, like what? Rebounds, assists. They got everything you need. So, plus you can even combine your bets, for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
So Hawks fans, keep it real. Did you bet for the Hawks to win once you got confirmation early in the day that Trae Young was out due to a non-COVID illness, to the point where he wasn't even traveling with the team? So hopefully he'll be better and ready to rock and roll tonight. But no worries. Sometimes, Jarvis, when a star is out, then that allows another star to be born, or for somebody to really just have a breakout game, or to solidify what we already knew. And we could give superlatives all across the board in that 123-105 win against the Bulls, right? First of all, you do take care of business. The Hawks do. You get the season series split so that the Bulls don't have that in their hand, the season series win. And now you're 2 games up on them versus 1, sitting in that 8th place spot, which was important because the Raptors beat the Hornets. So you absolutely needed to take care of your business, but you did. And not only did they do it taking care of their business, but Jarvis, even in the 4th quarter, when the Bulls had several attempts at a comeback where they got the lead down to 9, every single time there was a different Hawk who came to the rescue, whether it was a DeJounte Murray defensive play, or it was a Sadiq Bey 3, or it was Jalen Johnson. It didn't matter. Every single time, not only did a Hawk step up, Jarvis, but it was a different Hawk that stepped up. And it's funny because, like you said, Was Jalen Johnson listening to us yesterday? Because we definitely called him out as
Yes,
one of our
yes.
guys, along with AJ Griffin, just having a solid game.
Yeah.
We need him to
Yep.
be great. Just be solid. And Onyeka Okongwu doing his thing again. So before we talk about Bogdanovic and go to the bench mob, because you and I talked about that yesterday and how much they are getting back to form.
Yeah, I think this is the development piece is really starting to shine through. Because when you see the confidence these guys are playing with, Quinn's not even talked about how Sadiq Bey and how he's been pushing those guys to put those guys in the paint. And it was just a sight to see when Sadiq Bey saw, I think it was Kobe White was guarding him. He was like, man, what? Man, I'm about to face you up. I'm about to turn, go to school. Let me go ahead and back this dude down really quick and show him what time it is, because y'all gonna have to change this lineup, Coach Billy Donovan. You're gonna have to change this up, because I'm gonna take advantage of this every time, man. You just saw it. It was time and time again getting into the paint. And I think what the Hawks ended up with 70 points scored in the paint. So when you think about that aspect, it's just like understanding figuring out what your advantage is, right, against this team in the matchup, and without your star player, right, and Trae Young, and then going out and saying, hey, this is what we're going to try to do. And then when you actually go out to the court, you have to execute, right? And then those guys were able to go out to execute that game plan. And it was just a beautiful sight to see those guys go out there and come up with a game plan with Snyder and go out there and execute that bad boy to the T. And then, of course, the guy that we call out, the guys that we've been paying attention to go out there and ball like Jalen Johnson did, T. Like, I don't know who this team is, but I'm just like, okay, can y'all add Trae back in here and still be the same team? Like, that's what I'm looking forward to, T. That's exactly what I'm looking forward to against the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, and that's your next level. That's your next level of play, when you can insert your star who can take over a game all by himself, but you don't allow him to. Because last night you saw vintage Hawks. You saw patent Hawks. They move the ball. There's beautiful spacing. Everyone knows their assignment. They understand it, and they actually make good on their assignment. That's what we saw in every player last night. And you have to see that, because when you're talking about a team that has 6 players in double digits, 4 out of 5 starters in double digits as well, and you're talking about multiple players who are right on the edge of a double-double with rebounds or assists. Take your pick. DeJounte Murray, for example, could have been a double-double either way. He played that kind of game. So don't get caught up in maybe him having 17, 18 points. Look at the whole stat line, because the box score and the whole stat line for every single player, that's what tells the story. The other thing is, Jarvis, I want to go back to something you said. In addition to the points in the paint, 70 points in the paint for the Hawks, they really handled the Bulls in the paint and handled them in a clean way. Nobody was in foul trouble last night. That is huge when you think about Jalen Johnson and Onyeka Okongwu and some of the challenges that they would have in defending in the front court, right? But we didn't see that last night. So when you start to see those things, maybe it won't matter necessarily this year in terms of, possibly getting out of the play-in or even getting out of the first round. But you made a great point in that this is a learning opportunity, a development opportunity, where we're starting to see these players on that bench be so critical to the Hawks being successful, and then having players on the bench like Bogdanovic, who had a game high 26 points, being able to go 5 of 10, I think from 3 like crazy, scored the first 8 points of the game. So he literally set the stage and established himself early, and then was consistent throughout. And then to put Sadiq Bey in that starting lineup, like you said, and him saying, wait a minute, they're going to keep giving me this mismatch. I think I'll take it. Everybody knew exactly what was needed of them. And I think when you do that, here's something that we don't talk about as well. Then you give a guy like Clint Capella the opportunity to not have to overextend himself in a game and then be exhausted as we're running down the stretch and trying to get into this playing tournament and make some noise. So I was seeing it, like you said, in the short term. And I'm excited because guess what? Guess who they did back-to-back wins against the last time they had back-to-back wins, March 8th through the 10th? The Wizards.
Yes.
And they did it in D.C. So if they could do it in D.C. back on March 8th and 10th, and they're bringing the Wizards here tonight, that makes me very confident. Like we said, we don't get overly excited and expect things, but it does make me confident about what we could see tonight at State Farm.
And you know what kind of brought that little feeling? I was like, all right, man, all right, y'all playing really well. So, when is it going to happen? And I thought that was going to happen, like going into halftime, right? They were up by 20. And then they went on, the Bulls went on an 8-point run right before halftime. I'm just like, oh, boy, here we go. But sure enough, they went into halftime, came right back out in the third quarter, and they got right back on it. And I think that those are some of the little things that I feel like that are going to help this team. Not necessarily make us get expectations for this team. Those aren't coming back. But it make us feel good about them going into, like you said, this play-in tournament in these last 3 games to, hey, end the season on a 5-game winning streak. You go ahead and match your highest winning streak of the entire season. So that's cool. I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? So I think that, this team is slowly working its way into some respectability. And I think that, they want to be respected. And because, the Chicago wasn't a team that, that was flailing around. They were on a win streak. Right. They were pushing towards, being a legitimate play-in tournament opponent. So I think that this was a good win for the Hawks, especially without Trae Young being on the floor. So I'm looking forward, no expectations. I'm looking forward to them, extending that winning streak tonight against the Wizards.
Yeah, and I also like the fact that we always have a conversation, and I'm talking about always. Every time we preview a game, you and I go down the list, and particularly we go and look at the other team's bench and says, oh dear, who's going to be the X factor tonight? Kobe White was going to be that X factor. He was supposed to be that guy for the Bulls. He wasn't. I mean, he had a solid game, but he didn't torch the Hawks. That was another thing that made me excited because I felt like from a game plan perspective, and this is a shout out to Quinn Snyder, from a game plan perspective, okay, we're looking for that X factor assassin who's going to try to down us at the perfect moment where, they can kind of go in for the kill, and they made sure that they neutralized him. And I think if that's something that we can see again from them, then they should be good to go tonight. We shall see down at State Farm Arena. But this is the thing. 404 day, Jarvis, it didn't disappoint because the Hawks and the Braves won. So today you should be celebrating with a Built Bar as opposed to drowning your sorrows because both your teams got a dub. And you know what? It's an easy thing to do. All you got to do is go to built.com where you can find all of their latest and greatest flavors. So you guys know me. I like to rock with anything almond. But if you're the type of person who likes coconut or any of those I kind of call them exotic flavors, go for it. They've got bars. They've got puffs. They've got only 130 calories in a bar. Look, it's swimsuit season. You got to get your fine on. Let Built Bar help you to get there, right?
Yeah,
so you can also, I know, right? Undress season. So you can go to Built.com and you can place your order. Or now you can even go to Walmart and you can get a box of Built Bar. It's 4 candy bars in a box, or you can get 13 in a box right at Sam's Club. So don't forget to go to Built.com. 4 grams of sugar, not a bad look there as well or at all. And of course, 15 grams of protein. Again, Built.com. It's healthy. It'll make you happy and it'll make you whole.
Absolutely. Get yourself a Built Bar. Stop playing around, man. Summertime is right around the corner. But Locked On Sports Atlanta family, we want to thank you for helping us get to 6,000 subscribers. Really appreciate you. You guys have been doing your thing and dropping those good jewels and comments on the channel. So that helps us grow as a channel because we are a Locked On Sports Atlanta family, and you guys are a part of that as well. And we really appreciate you. But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about because that's just how we get down on this show. Today is no different. This one right here, T, this kind of hit home with me a little bit as far as, as I was yesterday, I was telling you about this. There's a North Carolina A&T, HBCU. There was a young man, a suspect, who was arrested on campus, and they found over 1,000 rounds of ammo when they searched his car because he was chasing unarmed security guards around campus and then yelling at law enforcement and everything. And once they searched his car, they found 1,000 rounds of ammo, all different type of handguns, pistols, blow dart guns. And when you think about the gravity of this particular situation and what could have happened, thankfully, police were able to, apprehend the young man, and then he's going to go where he needs to go. because we don't, Lord knows we can't take another mass shooting on an HBCU campus, because that's just not something that we want to see. And I think this is something that we're glad that the end result was, hey, the guy has been apprehended and no one was, unfortunately, no lives were taken.
Indeed. I could not agree with you more, because my mind and my heart and spirit went to parents and
Right.
how parents are entrusting their kids, in your case, going from Atlanta to, and I was about to say the bad word, FV. So I'm going to say
Yeah,
Albany.
no. Albany,
Going down to
yes.
Albany. Yeah. Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
I would have gotten blasted for FB. But yeah,
Bless your
like,
heart.
and I was only an hour away, right? I was only an
Right.
hour away, but still, when I
Yeah.
went to grad school, that was 4 hours away. And so I think about the parents and how they're entrusting their kids and just hoping and praying and even believing that they'll
Yeah.
come back. But when we were in school, that wasn't an issue. Like, that wasn't anything. I
No, you
mean,
didn't even think about
maybe
that.
parents were thinking about, hey, I hope they travel safely back. They have traveling graces when they're driving back home, or we hope that they don't get into some type of club fight or something goes wrong in the spot.
Right.
But this is like next level. And I can recall actually having a conversation with a parent at one of our Xavier, we call them XUNU events, where our admissions group goes around the country and meets with students and parents saying, okay, like, our kids are going to be okay in New Orleans, aren't they? And
Yeah.
that's a sad commentary, that's one of the top questions that's asked at these admissions events, as opposed to trying to get resources for these students, learning more about our campus and what the university provides. We have to talk about the safety of a student who's just trying to get a leg up and put themselves in position to be successful and contribute to society. So sad commentary that somebody would spend that kind of time putting together that type of diabolical scheme for people to lose their lives, students, children, essentially, to lose their lives.
Yeah, and acquiring all of that ammunition and all of those weapons and just like and putting it all together in the car and saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, I don't know what I'm about to do, but I'm about to do something." Like that is, yeah. Like shout out to the campus police and the local law
Indeed.
enforcement for minimizing this
Expedite.
situation
Yeah.
and moving on and putting this dude under the jail where he belongs. Now, on a lighter note, T. Speaking of professionals and doing something and making an impact, how about this? Magic Johnson is a part of the Commanders, and he was on the Today Show not too long ago, and they were asking him about purchasing or putting in a bid for the Washington Commanders. We all know all the controversy that has come with Daniel Snyder since he's been the owner of that team. But how about this? How about adding an NFL team to your portfolio, T? And saying that, and I thought that it was just really cool to hear Magic Johnson say, "Yeah, this is all we have left to add." I was just like, how you just casually speak about adding a $6 billion asset to your portfolio? That is just so super cool to me.
Unbelievable. Like, I thought it was a boss move, and this is kind of taking it back in the day, right?
Right.
And you think about, I was thinking about the movies, the movie theaters. Remember the Magic Johnson
Yeah.
theaters,
Oh
and he was
yes, absolutely,
just
of course.
all
Yeah.
sorts of restaurants. Yeah, so it was very interesting to me to hear his comments, and then I thought it was a boss move to have a partnership or a stake in the Dodgers, because that's a World Series champion, if you will. So yeah,
Yes.
he is the blueprint of what life after playing sports should look like.
Yeah, I absolutely love Magic, and my dad was a huge Laker fan, so I had no choice but to fall in love with the man, the myth, the legend, Magic Johnson. So yeah, I think he's going to be. Hopefully, they get that team, they get that squad, and kind of make some changes around and change that environment, because we all know they need as much change and much diversity and inclusion thinking over there as they can possibly get. Now, and folks, we want to thank you guys for thinking about us and making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, why don't you go ahead and check out Locked On Sports today and make it their second listen of the day? And, you can find it wherever you find this podcast. we're everywhere, and they are everywhere as well. So check them out, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And last but not least, before we get out here, I do this each and every day. People, if you don't do anything today, make sure that you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.